Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
The wind never stopped on Valor. It howled across the endless dunes, carrying grains of violet sand that stung the skin and whispered against the cracked walls of Lyra's home. The storms came and went without warning, swallowing entire settlements and uncovering the bones of those who hadn't been fast enough. Lyra stood at the edge of their small shelter, watching the horizon blur beneath another rising gust. The twin moons hung faintly in the sky, barely visible through the dust. "We won't last another cycle," her father said behind her. His voice was quiet, almost swallowed by the wind, but she heard it. She always heard everything now. "How much water is left?" she asked without turning. A pause. "Not enough." That was the answer to everything on Valor. Not enough food, not enough water, not enough mercy. Lyra clenched her jaw and stepped back inside. The interior of their home was dim, lit only by a flickering energy core that buzzed weakly in the corner. Her mother sat near it, hands trembling as she sorted through a small pile of ration crystals. Too small. Lyra counted them instantly. She always did. 3 days. Maybe 4 if they stretched it. Her mother noticed her gaze and quickly covered the pile. "We'll manage," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Lyra didn't respond. She had learned long ago that hope, on Valor, was just another word for delay. The syndicate ships arrived at dusk. They always did. The sky shifted from violet to deep indigo when the first low hum echoed across the desert. Lyra stiffened instantly. "They're early," she whispered. Her father's face went pale. No, they can't be." But they were. A massive shadow passed over their shelter, followed by the thunderous roar of engines descending. The ground trembled as the ship landed just beyond the ridge. Lyra's pulse quickened. "They're not due for another cycle," she said. "We don't have anything for them." Her father didn't answer. That was when she noticed it, the way his hands shook not with fear, but with something else, something heavier, something decided. The knock came seconds later. Not a request, a command. 3 sharp strikes against the metal door. Lyra's mother flinched. Her father closed his eyes. "Open!" A voice called from outside, distorted, mechanical. Lyra stepped forward instinctively, but her father grabbed her wrist. His grip was tight, too tight. "Wait," he said. She turned to him, confusion flickering across her face. "We can't ignore them." His eyes met hers for the first time that day, and in them, she saw it. Guilt. Her stomach dropped. "Dad?" she whispered. He looked away. That was all the answer she needed. The door slid open. The air outside was thick with dust and engine fumes. 3 figures stood waiting, tall, armored, their faces hidden behind reflective visors. Behind them, the massive ship loomed like a predator crouched in the sand. One of the figures stepped forward. "Payment is due," it said. Her father swallowed hard. We don't have enough to cycle." "We are aware," the figure replied. Its helmet tilted slightly toward Lyra. A cold wave washed over her. "No," she said immediately, stepping back. "No," you said. Her mother began to cry. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We didn't have a choice." Lyra's world tilted. "You did," Lyra said, her voice shaking. "You always have a choice." Her father's voice cracked. "It was this or all of us." Silence fell. Heavy, crushing. Lyra looked between them. Her family, the only people she had ever trusted. And in that moment, she understood. She wasn't being taken. She had been given. "I won't go," she said, backing away. The armored figure raised a device. "Compliance is not optional." Lyra turned to run. She didn't make it 2 steps. A sharp pulse struck her neck as the collar snapped into place. Cold metal tightening instantly. Electricity surged through her body, locking her muscles mid-motion. She collapsed to the ground, unable to scream. Her vision blurred. Her limbs refused to respond. Strong physiology. One of the figures noted she will perform well. Perform. The word echoed in her fading mind. Hands grabbed her arms, lifting her effortlessly. She tried to fight, try to move, but her body no longer belonged to her. As they dragged her toward the ship, she forced her head to turn. Her mother had fallen to her knees. Her father stood frozen, unable to look at her. "Please," Lyra tried to say, but no sound came out. The ramp swallowed her whole. Inside the ship, the air was cold and sterile. Rows of containment cells lined the walls, filled with beings from worlds she didn't recognize. Some stared at her with hollow eyes. Others didn't react at all. She was thrown into an empty cell. The door slammed shut. The collar pulsed again, forcing her into unconsciousness, but not before one final thought burned through her mind. Not anger, not fear, but something far worse. Understanding. Her family hadn't just lost her, they had chosen to. And as darkness closed in, Lyra realized something she would never forget. On Vaylor, survival didn't just cost everything. Sometimes it cost you your soul. Darkness didn't come all at once. It crept in and out like a tide Lyra couldn't control. Voices drifted to the void, harsh, metallic, speaking languages she didn't understand. The hum of engines vibrated through her bones. Every so often, a sharp pulse from the collar around her neck dragged her deeper into unconsciousness. Whenever her body tried to wake, time lost meaning. When she finally opened her eyes again, it wasn't because the collar allowed it. It was because something had changed. The air felt different. Still cold, but not as suffocating. Lyra lay on a hard metallic floor, her cheek pressed against it. The faint glow of blue light illuminated the small containment cell around her. Transparent barriers hummed softly, sealing her in. She didn't move at first. Moving meant pain. Slowly, carefully, she tested her fingers. They responded. Barely, but enough. Her breath hitched as she pushed herself upright, every muscle trembling. The collar remained locked around her neck, its faint glow a constant reminder that her body was no longer her own. She looked around. Rows of identical cells stretched along the walls of a long, narrow corridor. Inside them were others, creatures of different shapes, sizes, colors. Some looked vaguely humanoid. Others didn't. All of them shared the same expression. Defeat. One being across from her met her gaze briefly. Large, dark eyes filled with something hollow. It didn't speak. It didn't move. It simply looked away. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself. So this was it. Not death. Worse. Days passed. Or at least, she thought they did. There was no sun, no sky, only artificial light that never changed. Guards moved through the corridors at regular intervals, their heavy footsteps echoing before they appeared. They spoke little, only scanning cells and occasionally removing prisoners. Those who were taken didn't come back. Lyra learned quickly. Don't speak. Don't resist. Don't draw attention. The collar ensured obedience anyway. Food was delivered through a small slot, nutrient paste, tasteless and cold. She forced herself to eat. Survival was instinct, even now, even here. But inside, something was breaking. Not loudly, not all at once, just quietly. The first explosion shattered the silence. A deafening blast rocked the ship, throwing Lyra against the wall of her cell. The lights flickered violently, then shifted to a harsh red. Alarm screamed. For a moment, no one moved. Then chaos erupted. What was that? A voice shouted from somewhere down the corridor. Boarding breach. Sector 7. Blaster fire followed. Sharp bursts of light and sound that echoed like thunder in confined space. Lyra froze. Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. This wasn't routine. This wasn't control. This was something else. The guards rushed past. For the first time since she'd been captured, their movements weren't calm or precise. They were frantic. One of them stopped briefly near her cell, scanning something on its armed device. Leave them. Another voice snapped. Containment isn't priority. They disappeared down the corridor. And then, silence. Not complete, but enough. Lyra stared at the barrier in front of her. Still active. Still holding. She swallowed hard. This was her chance. If she had won. A shadow appeared at the far end of the corridor. Not armored. Not like the others. It moved differently. Faster, less rigid. Lyra tensed as approached, every instinct screaming at her to retreat to hide. But there was nowhere to go. The figure came into view. Human, she had only seen them in fragments of trade transmissions. Rare, distant, unpredictable. He wasn't what she expected. No heavy armor. No intimidating height. Just a man, slightly out of breath, a weapon in his hand, and determination etched across his face. He stopped in front of her cell. For a brief second, they just stared at each other. Then he spoke. "You're conscious." "Good." His voice was different. Not cold. Not mechanical. Alive. Lyra didn't respond. Couldn't. Humans weren't supposed to be here. "Hey," he said, softer now. "I'm not with them." She narrowed her eyes slightly. That didn't mean anything. Everyone said that. Another explosion rocked the ship. The human glanced over his shoulder. Tense. "No time," he muttered. He stepped closer to the control panel beside her cell and pulled out a small device. Sparks flew as he forced it into the interface. "What are you doing?" Lyra finally managed, her voice hoarse from disuse. He looked up at her, surprised. "Getting you out?" "Why?" The question came faster than she expected. It made him pause. "Because you don't belong here." Simple. Too simple. "No one belongs here," she said bitterly. He gave a short nod. "Exactly." The barrier flickered. Once. Twice. Then it dropped. The absence of the hum was almost deafening. Lyra didn't move. Freedom stood right in front of her, and she couldn't take it. Not yet. Not like this. "Come on." The human urged, stepping back. "We have to go." She stared at him. "You could sell me," she said. The words came out flat. Factual. He blinked. "What?" "You could trade me. Profit from me." Her hands clenched slightly. "That's what everyone does." For a moment, something shifted in his expression. Not anger. Not offense. Something quieter. "I'm not everyone," he said. Another explosion. Closer this time. The floor trembled beneath them. "Look," he added quickly, "you can stay here and take your chances, or you can come with me and at least have a choice." Choice. The word hit her harder than anything else. Her family had taken that from her. The slavers had taken that from her. And now it was being offered back. Lyra stood. Her legs wobbled, weak from days of confinement. But she forced herself upright. The collar pulsed faintly, warning, not pain. Yet she stepped forward, stopping just short of the open doorway. The human watched her, not moving closer, not grabbing her, just waiting. That, more than anything, made the difference. Slowly, she crossed the threshold. The corridor felt wider outside the cell, more dangerous. "Stay close," he said, turning and leading the way. "What's your name?" she asked quietly. He hesitated, as if the question caught him off guard. "Elias." She repeated it silently. "Elias." "Lyra," she said after a moment. He glanced back briefly. "Got it." Another explosion shook the ship. "Let's make sure that name doesn't end up on a missing list." As they ran through the chaos, past fallen guards, flickering lights, and the distant sounds of battle, Lyra realized something strange. She was afraid. Of course she was. But beneath the fear, there was something else. A fragile, unfamiliar feeling. Not safety. Not yet, but the possibility of it. And for the first time since the night the syndicate came, Lyra wasn't just surviving. She was moving toward something. Even if she didn't know what it was. Even if she didn't fully trust the human leading the way. For now, that was enough. The silence was the first thing that unsettled her. After the chaos of the transport ship, the alarms, the shouting, the constant threat of pain, the quiet felt unnatural, almost dangerous. Lyra stood at the edge of the small landing platform, staring out at a sky she didn't recognize. It was blue, not the harsh violet haze of Valor, not the artificial glow of a ship's interior, just an open, endless blue that stretched farther than she could comprehend. Soft white clouds drifted slowly, untouched by violence. It felt unreal. "You can breathe easier here," Elias said behind her. She stiffened slightly, instinctively aware of his presence. But she didn't turn around. "I am breathing," she replied. He let out a small breath that might have been a laugh. "Yeah, I meant never mind." She didn't understand what he meant, but she didn't ask. The outpost was small. A handful of metal structures clustered together on a rocky plateau, surrounded by sparse vegetation and distant mountain ridges. It was quiet, not abandoned, but not crowded either. A place people passed through or hid in. Lyra noticed everything. Entry points, blind spots, escape routes. She memorized them without thinking. You planning to run already? Elias asked, leaning casually against the doorway of the main structure. She glanced at him. I'm planning not to be trapped again. Fair enough. He nodded once. Good instinct. But you're not a prisoner here. The word sounded familiar. Too familiar. She said nothing. Inside, the air was warm. Not artificial warm like the ship, but natural, steady. The space was simple. A table, 2 chairs, a narrow sleeping area, and storage units along the walls. No locks on the doors. No barriers. No restraints. That bothered her more than anything. Elias moved around easily, like he belonged there, grabbing supplies, checking panels, pouring water into a container. He held it out to her. Drink. She hesitated. He didn't move closer, didn't insist, just held it there. After a moment, she stepped forward and took it. The water was cool, clean. It didn't taste like chemicals or recycled waste. She drank slowly at first, then faster. Elias watched but didn't comment. When she finished, she lowered the container slightly, still holding it. Why? She asked. He tilted his head. Why what? Why help me? There it was. The question that had been waiting since the moment he opened her cell. Elias leaned back against the table, considering. Because I could. That's not an answer. It is for me. She frowned slightly. That makes no sense. He shrugged. Not everything has to. Days passed. Real days this time, measured by the rising and setting of the sun. At first, Lyra barely left the structure. The open sky felt too exposed, too vulnerable. On Valor, openness meant danger. On the transport ship, it meant surveillance. Here, she didn't know what it meant. Elias didn't force her outside, didn't push, didn't question. He went about his routine, fixing equipment, checking transmissions, leaving occasionally and returning with supplies, always returning. That, more than anything, confused her. People left. They didn't come back. The collar was still there, a constant weight around her neck, a constant reminder. Elias noticed her touching it one evening. I can try to remove it, he said. She froze. Try. He grimaced slightly. It's not exactly standard tech. If I mess it up, it could kill me, she finished. Yeah. Silence settled between them. On the ship, the collar had been absolute control. Pain. Obedience. Here it was just waiting, watching. No, she said finally. Leave it. Elias studied her for a moment, then nodded. Your call. Your call. Another strange phrase. Another unfamiliar concept. The first time she laughed. It surprised both of them. It happened accidentally. Elias had been trying to explain something about human food, something about spices and flavor combinations, and ended up burning whatever he was cooking. Badly. The smell filled the room. It's not supposed to look like that, he admitted, staring at the charred mess. Lyra tilted her head. You destroyed it. Thanks for the observation. You said you knew how to cook. I do, usually. She looked at the ruined food, then at him, and something slipped. A small sound escaped her. Soft, unfamiliar. A laugh. She immediately went still, as if she had made a mistake. Elias blinked, then smiled. There it is. Her expression hardened slightly. What? That? You laughing? I did not. You did. She turned away, unsettled. Laughter didn't belong in her world. It felt wrong, but also light. That night, she couldn't sleep. The sky outside was filled with stars, clear, bright, endless. She stepped outside quietly, her bare feet pressing against the cool ground. The air was calm, carrying only a faint breeze. No storms, no engines, no screams, just silence, peaceful silence. She wrapped her arms around herself, unsure what to do with the feeling building inside her chest. Footsteps approached behind her. Elias. Couldn't sleep, he asked. She shook her head slightly. Too quiet. He nodded, as if he understood. Yeah, it takes getting used to. They stood side by side, looking up at the sky. After a moment, Lyra spoke. On Valor, you could never see the stars like this, she said. The storms blocked everything. Elias glanced at her. Then I guess this is your first proper view. She didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the endless expanse above. So many, she whispered. Yeah. Another silence. Not heavy this time. Just shared. Do you miss it? He asked eventually. Valor? He nodded. She thought about it. The storms. The hunger. Her family. The moment they gave her away. No, she said. The answer came easier than she expected. Elias didn't press further. He didn't ask about her family. Didn't ask about her past. He let her choose what to say and what not to. Days turned into weeks. Lyra began to move more freely. She explored the outpost, walked beyond the immediate perimeter, learned the terrain, learned the rhythms of this new world. And slowly, very slowly, she began to believe something impossible, that this wasn't temporary, that this wasn't a trap, that she wasn't waiting for the moment everything would be taken again. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Lyra found Elias repairing a panel outside. You stay, she said suddenly. He looked up. What? You leave sometimes, but you always come back. He shrugged lightly. It's my home. She studied him. You could leave, she said. Go somewhere else. Safer. He met her gaze. Maybe. A pause. But I'm not going to. Why? He smiled slightly. Because someone's got to make sure you don't burn the place down trying to cook. She stared at him. Then, again, that small, unexpected laugh slipped out. This time, she didn't stop it. Something was changing, not just around her. Inside her, the fear was still there. The memories were still there. But they weren't everything anymore. There was space now. Space to breathe. Space to feel. The warning came before the ship appeared. A sharp, repetitive tone echoed through the outpost, cutting cleanly to the quiet morning air. Lyra's eyes snapped open instantly. She was already moving before she fully woke. Outside, higher ground, visibility. By the time she reached the ridge overlooking the outpost, Elias was there, staring up at the sky. What is it? She asked, breath steady despite the sudden rush of adrenaline. He didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. Lyra followed his gaze. At first, she saw nothing. Then, a distortion, a shimmer in the atmosphere, like heat bending light. And suddenly it was there, a ship, sleek, dark, predatory. Her stomach dropped. No, she whispered. Elias's jaw tightened. Yeah. She took a step back instinctively. They found me. Memories hit hard. The collar, the cell, the feeling of being dragged, powerless. Her breathing quickened. We don't have time, Elias said, already turning back toward the outpost. If they're here, they've got your signature. That means they'll scan the area, lock onto you, and... I'll go. The words cut through everything. He stopped, turned. What? I'll leave, Lyra said, forcing the words out before fear could stop her. If I go far enough, they'll follow me. They won't stay here. Elias stared at her like she'd said something absurd. That's your plan. It's the only one that works. No, it's the only one that gets you captured again. Better me than everything else, she snapped. Silence fell between them, tense, sharp. Lyra held his gaze. I won't let them take this place, she said. Or you. Something flickered in Elias's expression. Anger. Not at her. At the situation. They don't get to take you again. His voice was quieter now, but stronger, more certain. Lyra shook her head. You don't understand. They don't stop. Once they mark you, you're... I know how slavers work, he cut in. I've been dealing with them longer than you think. She froze. That she hadn't expected. Elias stepped closer. Not enough to crowd her, but enough to be clear. You're not running, he said. Not this time. And if they destroy this place, then we make sure they don't. The ship above shifted position. Lower, closer, scanning. A low hum vibrated through the ground as it activated its systems. They're locking on, Lyra said quietly. Elias nodded once. Good. She blinked. Good. Means they're focusing on you, he said, which means they're not expecting a fight. A beat. That's their mistake. Preparation happened fast. Elias moved through the outpost with practiced efficiency, pulling weapons from hidden compartments, activating defense systems Lyra hadn't even known existed. Turrets unfolded from the ground. Energy barriers flickered to life along the perimeter. This isn't just an outpost, she said, watching the transformation. He gave a small, grim smile. No, it's a fallback point. For what? For days like this. The first dropships descended minutes later. 3 of them. Fast. Aggressive. They hit the ground hard, sending dust and debris spiraling outward. Doors opened. Figures poured out. Armored, armed, efficient. The same kind that had taken her. Lyra's body tensed automatically. Fear surged, then stopped. She wasn't in a cage. She wasn't alone. Stay behind me, Elias said, raising his weapon. No, Lyra replied. He glanced at her. She met his eyes. I'm not that person anymore. A pause. Then he nodded. All right, he said. Then stay alive. The first shot rang out. Bright, loud, final. Chaos followed instantly. Blaster fire lit up the air as the slavers advanced, expecting resistance. But not this. Not coordinated. Not prepared. The outpost defenses activated, cutting down the first wave before they could fully spread out. Move! Elias shouted. Lyra didn't hesitate. She moved with him, not behind him, through the battlefield, using cover, watching angles, thinking, not reacting, choosing. One of the slavers broke through the perimeter, charging toward her. For a split second, she froze. The memory of being grabbed, restrained. No, not again. She stepped forward instead, shifted her weight, dodged the incoming strike, and drove her elbow hard into the side of its helmet. The figure staggered. Elias finished it with a precise shot. Nice, he said. She didn't respond, but something inside her steadied. More dropships, more enemies. They're reinforcing, Elias said, checking his weapon. Lyra looked up at the main ship, still hovering above. They'll keep coming. Not if we take that out. She followed his gaze. The ship, the source. That's not possible, she said. Probably not, he agreed, a small smile. But we don't need possible. We need enough. They moved together toward the edge of the outpost, where a larger weapon system stood partially concealed. Elias activated it, the machine humming to life as power surged through its core. It's going to draw everything, he said. Good, Lyra replied. He looked at her, really looked, not as someone he needed to protect, but as someone standing beside him. Equal. The sky lit up. The weapon fired. A concentrated blast of energy tore upward, striking the slaver ship's shields. The impact rippled across its surface, forcing it to stabilize. Again, Lyra said. Elias adjusted the controls. Fired. This time, the shields flickered, weakened. The slavers below shifted focus, redirecting their attack toward the weapon. They're coming, Elias warned. Lyra stepped forward. Then we hold. The fight blurred. Time stretched. Every movement mattered. Every decision counted. Lyra felt the fear, but it no longer controlled her. It sharpened her, focused her. She fought not to survive, but to protect. And that changed everything. The third blast broke the shields. The fourth pierced the hull. The slaver ship shuddered violently, its systems failing. Come on, Elias muttered. The fifth shot hit the core, and the sky exploded. The shock wave rolled across the outpost, knocking both of them to the ground. Silence followed. Heavy, uncertain. Lyra pushed herself up slowly, her ears ringing. The dropships, gone. The remaining slavers, retreating. Without the main ship, they had nothing. No command, no control. They fled, It was over. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Elias let out a breath. Well, he said, that was the lot. Lyra looked at him, really looked, at the human who had stepped into a slaver's ship without hesitation, who had given her a choice, who had stood beside her, not above her. You stayed, she said quietly. He blinked. Yeah, you could have left. So could you. A pause. She shook her head slightly. No, she said, not anymore. The sun began to rise, light spilling across the horizon. Soft, warm, real. Lyra stepped closer to him, slowly, deliberately. Then she reached for his hand. For a brief moment, she hesitated, not out of fear, but out of unfamiliarity. Then she closed the distance. You saved me, she said. Elias smiled faintly. You saved yourself. She shook her head. Not alone. Their hands tightened slightly. No words followed.